in the full screen mode?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks, guys, for joining us in this webcast today. Uh, Especially because it's quite late, and it's great that you took time out to come and discuss with the four speakers that we have today. Uh, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just introduction, give a bit of introduction about what we do and about the event and how we're going to run the event, and then we will start the talks with the four speakers. So first of all, just to familiarize you with the way this event works, or this event software works. You can see the chat window on the right. Most of you are already chatting with each other there, so you can introduce yourself there. Maybe greet other people around and just mingle around with them. If you have any questions, don't ask them in the chat. There's a Q&A widget that you should see. Add your questions there. They can be upvoted by the community, and the questions that will have more upvotes, we will pick them up in that order, and then we'll pose those questions to the speakers at the end of the webcast. Answer the poll. There are a few questions already there. Our team will also add more as the time progresses, right? And be social. So blockchain career is the hashtag for today. If you think there is something that you learned, something that you want to share with your friends, please go ahead and share with the hashtag blockchain career, and also tag CutShort HQ on Twitter, on Facebook, and CutShort alone on LinkedIn. And we have a few goodies. So you should see in the chat window, you should see some link to invite your friends. You still have some time. Three people who invite the most people to this event will also get a Starbucks card, as well as a nice exclusive CutShort t-shirt, right? Before we begin this webcast, I think this is something which I'm not sure whether this is the largest gathering of blockchain professionals or enthusiasts in India, but we have 800 plus attendees here, which is something which we did not anticipate. All of you to make this event a success, and let's begin the event and just start the information sharing. In terms of agenda that we have, so the three goals that we are trying to address in this this webcast today. One is the overall understanding of blockchain area. What exactly is blockchain? What are the applications? How did we arrive here? So understanding that part, which is the core of blockchain, not getting too much hyped up or too much distracted by all the crypto or the hype around crypto. So this is more about blockchain, understanding the key fundamental aspects of blockchain. Then some discussion around career prospects in blockchain. What is the market going to look like in next, let's say, couple of years, and how to learn and build your blockchain skills. If you are interested and if you think that there's what the market needs, you have something, how can you learn that skill and build your career? So we have four speakers, and we have tried to give you four perspectives. So two of them are developers who started out as a web developers who did Ruby on Rails and other web apps, and then they gradually moved to blockchain and they build the name into it and they learn skills. So those are two speakers, Nilesh and Niranjan, who are going to talk on that perspective. Then we have one speaker, Gangadhar, who is a blockchain architect into this blockchain space, and he will talk from the recruiting perspective that when people or startups are hiring today for blockchain, what are they looking at? What do you need to know, and what do you need to make sure that you have if you want to get hired at these companies? And then we have one special speaker who is Satish. He is a blockchain architect himself, and he also has recruiting experience, vast recruiting experience, and he also is a faculty member at Amity Online, who are our friends and who are going to launch a blockchain program for professionals who want to transition to this area. So he will also present his side of the story, that what is the demand supply, what does the market needs, and what do people have to learn, and how they're trying to solve that problem with Amity Online. Can you add me, Ranjan? Right. So that is the agenda. And about before we go, most of you know about CutShort, but those of you who don't, just 2 lines for you that we are the fastest recruiting platform with 5,000 plus companies, all the way from smaller bootstrap startups to funded startups to Google and Amazon. And we believe that modern professionals should directly connect with each other. They don't really deserve job boards in today's day and age. So that's what we're trying to solve. Go ahead and check it out on CutShort.io. Without taking much of your time, let's begin the talk. So we're gonna have first speaker, who is Nilesh. I'll let him introduce himself because he has worked quite extensively on a lot of things. So Nilesh, why don't you take over and begin with the introduction?
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Nikunj. Yeah, so I'm basically been into software development industry for 14 years now. Done a lot of back-end enterprise web application, mobile development, all sort of things, machine learning, electronics, hardware. Yeah, but I've always been a generalist, and blockchain is a perfect space for people like me. Let me just make sure that my screen is shared.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. So the way I got started into blockchain is very interesting. I basically I was doing data science and other kind of things, and I discovered blockchain for the first time, and I found it very interesting because it seems to connect many disciplines that I am personally been interested in, economics, mathematics, cryptography, and so yeah, that's how I got started. And basically I've been curious about philosophy, societies, economics, game theory, and I started discussing more and more about blockchain, reading more about blockchain. It felt as if we were back in 1995 when internet was coming along and re-architecting everything, and that feeling still continues. The pace of change in this space is really high. So I started making open source contribution to this project called BigchainDB. It's a German company. They had set up a permissioned public network called Interplanetary Database, IPDB. And I just started building things like libraries and SDKs for them. And that's how I got started. And somewhere around last year, they shut down IPDB. So I was looking for alternatives to build my own apps. So I looked at Ethereum. I actually was familiar with Ethereum. Like I knew what solidity smart contracts are. I had written a few, but then I realized that okay, there are some trade-offs that are available in that have been made in such public chains, which are not always optimum for the kind of problem that you're trying to solve. And that's when we, along with a few others, we decided to set up a new blockchain network. We were calling it Indian network, and the focus here is basically whatever makes sense for the app developer, right? Whatever they need. So, for example, shorter block time, faster confirmation, lower transaction fees, and things like that. So that's my story. Now coming to Web 3.0, and I'm purposely and deliberately using this term Web 3.0 rather than blockchain because it's a broader umbrella. It covers multiple aspects beyond blockchain. So, for example, this movement is about decentralization. We want till now we have had centralized entities like Facebook and Google who we use them as apps and as users, and they control all the data, they derive all the value out of it. Instead of that, what started happening is we're moving to more decentralized systems where we get more control. The users get more control, the developers get more control. So, and this movement is affecting every part of the stack, right? So in terms of browsers, there's a browser that Mozilla founder has created called Brave. It has an inbuilt token where it tracks the attention that users pay to websites, and then it rewards the publisher. Similarly, in storage, we have projects like IPFS, which basically takes the idea like what torrents used to be, but it makes it available to anybody for any purpose, right? So anybody who has a free hard disk space, they can rent it out and they can store other people's files and start earning money. For operating systems, for computation like Golem. So Web 3.0 is a broader term that captures what is actually happening. If we just use blockchain, we miss out a lot of other things. So yeah, so what tools are we talking about here? So blockchain, there is not a single definition, but yeah, what we mean is a distributed ledger. And there are it comes in different flavors. There are permission-less blockchain like Bitcoin and Ethereum, but there are permission blockchains as well, like Hyperledger and BitchainDB and India. So another dimension to look at for blockchains is what kind of smart contracts does it support? And again, it's a continuous spectrum. Bitcoin had smart contracts built in from day one. They took it out in favor of safety, and now they are bringing them back. Ethereum was designed to have full-fledged Turing-complete smart contracts from day one, and there are some projects which have taken a middle path. So deterministic smart contracts, which are formally verifiable. So again, you really have to look at and pick the tool which is the right tool for the job. When it comes to storage, I've already talked about IPFS. IPFS is an interplanetary file system. Any node can share and download and sync files. And you really don't have to care where the file comes from, because you are referring to a file by its hash, which means that if I give you the hash, you will always get the correct file, even if you get it from your neighbor, from your ISP, from somebody else, from Wikipedia, from Google, it doesn't matter. And again, it's a very, very fundamental change in the politics and the architecture of the systems. BitchainDB is also a very interesting project. So what they've done is they've taken MongoDB and added some blockchain properties to it by running a service in front. So you really get a database-like performance. You can query data, you can search for things. At the same time, you can get some sort of control in the sense that you prevent double spending of assets. Another area that very few people seem to know about, and I hope they learn more, is protocols. So Interledger is a protocol which allows transfer of value from one chain to another chain. And that chain doesn't have to be a blockchain, right? It could be a bank. It could be another payment system. It could be a ledger, which is a centralized ledger. So Interledger is a cryptographic protocol. It doesn't have any token involved, but it allows you to transfer value from one chain to another. And I believe it can be a really game changer. So yeah, what kind of people this space needs, and this space is moving too fast, right? So yeah, primarily we need multidisciplinaries. Simply knowing programming alone or simply knowing UI or UX alone will not take you far, right? You may have to build in moving pieces which fit together, right? So for example, one of the key aspects in any blockchain project is game theory. And for those who don't know, game theory is a very simple branch of mathematics which says, if these are the rules, then what is going to be the outcome? And mechanism design is the flip side of it. Mechanism design says, if these are the outcomes that we want, how should we design the rules? And the reason why this becomes so important in this space is because we are so insistent on immutability. So once you design an app, all the rules are hard-coded and they are immutable. They can never be changed again. Which means if you didn't design the rule carefully, your app will not succeed. And therefore, game theory and mechanism design has become really, really crucial in this space. If you look at projects like Filecoin, which allows you to buy and sell hard disk space in a decentralized manner, they had to figure out a lot of game theory aspects, right? What if you ask me to keep a backup of your file? I keep one copy, but I claim to you that I have made 10 copies of it. How am I going to prove that, right? So again, UI UX, till now blockchain has been a bit difficult for users to get onto, but that's why it makes a lot of difference to have a really good design team. A lot of economics ideas are there, right? When you design a token, and should your token have a finite supply? Should it have inflation? If there is an inflation, is it increasing over time, decreasing over time? What kind of supply curve should you follow? What kind of monetary policy will you follow? All these ideas, all these questions have been discussed in economics for decades, but now they have become very, very practical needs for this space. For programmers, you can't do a good job by just being a programmer. And one of the key aspects in blockchain is community building. Ideally, you should not think of a blockchain project as a startup. A startup till now has been very centralized, very isolated kind of environment. A blockchain is basically a community, right? It's a belief network. It has a value because people believe in it, which means that community building is really essential. And we have lots of jobs, lots of work coming up for people who are willing to engage with users, developers, all sort of stakeholders, potential investors, right? So community building is again a very, very important aspect of any blockchain project, any Web 3.0 project. Yeah. Coming to how it's being adopted. So blockchain, the first application was obviously a cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is a digital money, and Ethereum came and said, wait, we can actually build a state machine around it, and nobody has to trust any other node. And that has actually brought this boom, because now people can build applications that once you develop and you publish, then you are never in charge of it. So users, you don't have to trust you anymore. Now, in terms of businesses, we are seeing lots of use cases in terms of supply chains. IBM, for example, is using blockchain to track shipping containers. When they travel from China to, let's say, US, it's halfway around the world. You can really track, okay, who took the ownership of that container, which port, which ship, right? Entire history is maintained on the ledger, and it becomes very easy to verify. In pharmaceuticals, we are seeing that, okay, people really want to know where did the ingredients come from, and which means that history of the movement of goods is important. Now, in Bitcoin or in Ethereum, a transaction basically means you have some inputs of assets and some outputs of assets. In supply chain, that just means inputs of goods and outputs of goods. So you just really take the same idea, but change the underlying meaning, and then it becomes applicable to supply chain. One very important application area is digital rights. For example, if you want to track who is allowed to watch my video, who is allowed to listen to my music, and you can track that on blockchain, and it really makes it transparent, because you don't have to trust the label company or the video publisher company to assure you that okay, they have respected our rights or not. And this, you can also call it digital asset management, right? So, for example, I gave you a right to do something for a short time period, and the blockchain will record that fact that, okay, that right was valid only till this time period, and after that you didn't have the right anymore. We are also seeing lots of use cases in governments. Primarily, blockchain is a record keeping tool, right? And governments so far haven't been very enthused about using it in a decentralized setup, but the record keeping aspect, the immutability aspect, is still useful to them. So we are seeing lots of applications like putting your degree certificates on the blockchain, so that they can be verified and then used for applying to jobs and applying for loans and things like that. So land records, a land is also an asset which gets transferred and divided and then recombined, exactly like how money goes through all these stages. So we are seeing lots of cases where land records are being maintained over blockchain. Dispute resolution, because we want to have trust in the facts, and once a fact is verified by something, and that verification and that attestation is on blockchain, it has so much more value. So we are seeing lots of adoptions like this, and we have many more use cases which are consumer friendly, and we can talk about that in the later sessions. Yeah. So coming to the career building aspect, yeah. So this is quite interesting. Now there are many opportunities for you guys to take up. So, for example, if you are building the core part of a blockchain, the node that synchronizes and then verifies the transaction and then approves them and then adds to a ledger, those are mostly being written in C++, C, or Golang. So, Ethereum, for example, one client is written in Golang, the other client is written in Rust, and we really want type safety and static typing. So that's where the developers are in demand a lot, right? The application developer, people who write smart contracts, Solidity is by far the biggest out there because of Ethereum, and that's the current choice that they have made. But Ethereum technically is compatible with other languages as well. So there is a language proposed called Viper, and there used to be a language called Serpent, and this space will evolve. So Solidity is a very good starting point for anybody who wants to learn distributed apps, decentralized apps. Now there are some, obviously the other projects have different needs. For example, Hyperledger, which is an IBM project and which is used to create permissioned networks. they have this idea called chain code, so that you can use your knowledge of other languages to implement smart contracts, and they sandbox it in certain ways. There is a company called chain.com, which has again its own language called IB, and there are a whole bunch of options there. But if you just want one single answer, I would say go with Solidity for now. Apart from the code that lives on the blockchain, you still need other functionality, which could be in the browser or elsewhere. And JavaScript is sort of the standard these days because it runs everywhere. You can run it on servers, you can run it on devices, browsers, televisions, watches, everything. So, and it also interacts very nicely with, let's say, Ethereum, right? Because they implement a RPC API. You can basically web3.js and you can invoke that. But the career building aspect, the one thing that many people miss out on is networking, like connecting to people. You just by becoming a really good app developer, you will not have a successful career. You need to reach out to people. And here are some tips that I have selected for you, which is ask for help. Don't get stuck. Don't get stuck at all. Try to find as much as you can about the problem. Try it, everything that you have done, but then go out and ask in forums. There are channels on Gitter. There are discourse forums. Every blockchain project has a very active community. You can ask questions there. You should also try to build a personal brand. Reach out. Try to achieve things. Try to answer. Try to help other people. Assist them. That helps you in your personal brand. You can contribute to open source project. Most of the blockchain projects actually are open source projects because you do want transparency, and there is so much work to be done that you have ample opportunities to contribute. But primarily, don't work in isolation. Work in groups, learn from each other, learn from people on the internet, and just don't get stuck as if you can take 3 years to learn something. This space is moving really fast, and you should be picking up it quite fast. Yeah. In terms of some concrete steps that you can take today to get started, I would say you can take up bounties for blockchain projects, right? Every blockchain project, Ethereum, EOS, Indium, Stellar, they will have tasks that anybody can take up, and they will range from very simple to very difficult. Pick up whatever you can. Start, you get both the things, right? You build your skills and you become part of that community where all the jobs and all the projects come from. Second thing is you should also catch up with the advancements, because as I said, this space is moving really fast. So whenever you hear of a new interesting project, let's say Filecoin or Ocean Protocol, you go out and actually read and understand that white paper, because they talk about the protocols. They talk about the aspects that are involved in bringing certain guarantees so that users can trust it. So one of these ideas is a token curated registry. So for example, all of us want to know which college is a good college to join. And we have a stake, we have an incentive to build such a list. But colleges have an incentive to appear on that list. That means that we need curation. And can we do this curation in a decentralized manner? That's what a TCR is a solution for. And there are approaches to it. For example, I just give you a brief idea of it. Let's say that both the candidate and the challengers have to stake some money, right? So IIT wants to say that I am one of the top 50 colleges in the world. Okay, they have to deposit some money for that, or it could be in tokens. And once they deposit, they are up for challenge. And then anybody like you and me can raise a challenge again by staking some money for our own, that, okay, you don't deserve to be in top 50 of this list. And now the community decides by voting whether the challenger is correct or the candidate is correct. And whoever wins, either the candidate will win or the challenger will win, right? Either the IIT will win or either I will win. So the money that both of us had deposited, a part of it is given to us or to the winner as a reward. That's a simple idea of a token curated registry, and it's being used everywhere, right? Anywhere you want to ensure quality in a decentralized manner, you will have to use token curated registries. A very interesting piece is prediction markets. We can create markets for everything, even if that thing is in the real world and not cyberspace, right? So what is the price of Bitcoin going to be 1 year from now? You can have a market around it. People can bet on it. And that because that fact lives on blockchain, we reward people who bring better quality information. I would also advise you to build domain expertise. So blockchain in itself is very, it's purely in cyberspace, right? You can solve very few problems with just blockchain. You really have to understand a domain as well. Are you trying to solve copyrights with blockchain? Are you trying to solve supply chains, disputes, right? You have to understand that domain. What are the incentives of stakeholders? What are the protections they want? What kind of proofs can be built? So you really have to build a domain expertise if you want to have a successful career in this fast-moving space. I would also add that beware of hype, because there was a bit of a bubble, at least for some time, and it is being oversold for some cases. So you should really understand what is a blockchain, what can it do. For example, I would summarize it as it can prevent double spending of a digital asset in a decentralized setup. So if some company says that, okay, we will put degree certificates on blockchain, now you really have to think, okay, why do degree certificates need to be on blockchain? Why can't they just be digitally signed? Is double spending really a problem there? And in most of the cases, it is not. So beware of hype. It's being oversold. You use the right tool for the right job, right? Sometimes blockchain is the right tool. Sometimes it's not. You should know your stuff so that you can spot bullshit and call it out. So a lot of things are being sold, and people are not looking carefully. They are investing money. They are losing money. I would say go deep, try to understand things, and focus on solving meaningful problems, right? I mean, you might think about, okay, dating on blockchain might be a good idea. I don't know. Is it a meaningful problem in the first place, right? We are not even able to solve dating in a centralized setup. Then how can we solve it in a decentralized setup, right? So really think about the problem that you're capable, because your end users will not care about what technology you have used. They will only care about what solution you've got, what properties does it have, what guarantees does it bring. So yeah, that's all from me. If you have any questions, you can contact me. Our Indian community Slack is open. We discuss all sort of issues. We build all sort of things. Please join. Please ping me anytime. You're all welcome. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, so yeah, I think that was very interesting. That the way I think what stood out, for me is like what you said in the end, which was about, users don't care about what you use to build a solution; they care about the solution itself. Something that people should remember. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just try, Nilesh, I'm just going to get you out of the screen so that I can invite the next speaker, who is Niranjan. So let me just remove you and get you back. Okay, now we should have Niranjan in like a few seconds. Yeah, hi Niranjan. Yeah, you are visible finally. And you are audible.
Awesome, finally.
Yeah, finally. So you can start your screen share.
Sure. Try this. We can innovate all we want. I think the one thing that scares me is audio video in conferences.
Yeah, I think there's a business idea right there.
Yeah.
Something on some audio video on blockchain.
All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes. You can put it on the full screen. Yep. It's full screen now.
Oh, shoot. I think I just clicked stop sharing. My bad. All right. So just confirming again, you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Hi, guys. My name is Niranjan Singh. I'm a developer by profession. I am also running a development agency based in California. We do a lot of web and app development, but in the past, I would say year or so, we've been doing more and more of blockchain stuff, and there's a lot of projects. There's a lot of demand on that side. So I'll be talking about what it would mean being a blockchain developer, how you can get started, what got me started, stuff like that. So just to start off with, I'll talk about why I started looking into this. I've been reading about Bitcoin, blockchain on and off since 2013, right? But I never really understood what it was, how it meant. I didn't look into the details. I never bothered with it. But last year, finally, when Bitcoin crossed $5,000, everyone started talking about it. All the media outlets were hyping it. I thought, being a geek, I definitely should at least be aware of what it is and how it works, and why do they call it unhackable, stuff like that. So I came in with a slightly skeptical mindset. I thought it's all just hype. I don't think there's too much there. But when I started reading into it, I started going through the fundamentals of how it works. I understood how each block is built on top of the other, and why if you change it through math, you cannot undo it. All those concepts, I think that really blew my mind away. I was really fascinated by it. I could not put down what I was reading. In fact, to tell you the truth, I remember when I got in last year, those 1 or 2 months when I just started reading about everything. So I have clients, I have like major deadlines coming up, right? And my work started getting affected because I could not focus on the other regular stuff once I started knowing what all is happening in this world. So it was just very fascinating to me. So I was just kind of in love with everything that was happening. And the one thing that kind of really struck me was the concept of smart contracts. Being a developer, that concept was kind of, it came naturally to me once I got it. The concept of smart contract is, especially this one simple fact, that if you think about it this way, every business in this world is, in the end, is a bunch of contracts, right? It's just a bunch of simple contracts. If you just taking anything, for example, let's say Uber. So you book a ride through Uber. That's basically getting into a contract with Uber, requesting to Uber arranges a taxi for you. You get into the cab. The taxi gets you to a point, and then you pay some amount, and Uber splits it with the taxi driver. So that's a contract. That's an agreement between you, Uber, and the taxi driver. Everyone being involved in that understanding. Similarly, anything else, you take courier service, for example, you come into an agreement with the courier company that you want to ship this parcel from this city, from Bombay to Delhi, and you are paying this much amount. So that's a contract between you and the company. Now, obviously, this is oversimplifying it. There's a lot of complexities to it. There's the human part of it. There's a lot of things around it. But the core concept that everything is a concept is a contract, and you can make it. Once you can digitize this contract, you know that you can make a lot of things more efficient. There's always inefficiencies when there's human manual stuff involved, right? And if you can digitize it, make it native, so that smart contract can natively understand money. You don't have to sort of deal with external things. You can just directly send money to the contract, and the contract can, through code, it can look at logic and decide what to do with that money. Okay, so now if I get the approval that the person has reached the destination, so this is through the code, right? The contract decides that the money will go to the taxi driver, and there'll be a cut that will be remaining for the owner. So that's just an example. So there's a lot of different fields, different business ideas and stuff which can be, the smart contracts can help improve the efficiencies of that business. Now, why should you care as a developer in this space? The one clear thing that I would say to everyone is that this space is right now, it's the prices since January of all the cryptocurrencies, Ethereum, Bitcoin, that's not reflecting on the real groundwork that's happening right now. If you go to conferences, if you go to events, if you just try to reach out, get more projects, there's a lot of projects in the pipeline. There's a lot of things being built in the next 6 months, 12 months. There's a lot of things that are planned out, and all of that. And being from this industry, I can tell you my agency has been getting calls from businesses wanting to do ICOs, tokens, blockchain platforms. Some of them might not be as interesting as the others, but just the point is that there's a lot of work that's being done right now. And because all of that is happening, and the number of people who are in this field who know how to build contracts, smart contracts and stuff, there are very few of them. So the demand and supply, it's clearly, it's in the favor of you as a developer. And secondly, because Ethereum smart contracts, that entire concept is very new. Ethereum just came out a couple of years ago. So you won't find people with 5 or 10 years of experience, right? Everyone it's a level playing field. You won't find people who have a lot of years of experience in this field. So basically, you can start out today just with small steps, making a weekend project, just putting it out there of a fun. I'll give you examples like there's card games, there's different types of games, and just minor projects that you can do. And slowly, within a few months, you keep at it. Start getting once you can execute smart contracts, you can start getting projects, and pretty soon you can become an expert in an area where there's very few experts right now. So that's very valuable for the community as well. Now, where is the demand exactly? So, like I said, there's I've been getting a lot of calls from ICOs, tokens, platforms. So that stuff is still very hot, and it's getting hotter. There's more and more tokens and things that are coming out every month, every week. And tokens and everything. How do these launch? These basically require smart contracts, blockchain specific knowledge to get those things built. And for simple projects, it's not that difficult. It's you don't have to. I'll show you after towards the end of this project how you can sort of get started with creating a token and stuff like that. Also, if you look at any vertical, any major industry, there is experimentation and proof of concepts being done in just pretty much everything. And it's not just startups and private companies. It's also government agencies just experimenting with different things of different countries. There's healthcare, insurance, supply chain is one of the biggest ones, which I believe would be disrupted massively pretty quickly. And finance is definitely, you've seen what all is happening in that. There's a lot more that I've not listed. Pretty much. Now, again, you can't apply blockchain to just anything and expect it to work. Blockchain is perfect for some types of improvements, and some places it might not be. So, but every industry would definitely benefit with this technology. So it's key for you to understand what it is and how it works, and like kind of get started with technically. So in terms of just the types of development, again, I'm simplifying this a little bit. There's more things, but in my opinion, there's mainly two types of demands that's there. There's the protocol layer developers, and then there's application layer development. So for protocol layer, that's basically working directly on the Ethereum blockchain, the clients and just the consensus algorithm and stuff like that. Also, all Ethereum or EOS or other chains, right? It's all working on the system itself. To give you an example, this is similar to there are engineers that can be working on improving an Android operating system, right? There are engineers who are directly adding new features and just improving Android every year. And then there are a lot of engineers who are building apps on top of the Ethereum platform. So both of these types of developers are highly in demand right now, just because there's a lot of projects being done and there's very few developers with that skill set right now. Now, I'm assuming some of you or many of you would be web and app developers. I myself was an app developer, web developer before I moved into blockchain. And what I realized is it's very, if you're a web or an app developer already, it'll feel very native to you. It won't feel strange or like a very, very different concept. That you still have the concept of front end and the back end, right? And the front end is still pretty much the same: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, stuff like that. Pretty much a simple website. The back end, you can remove the server completely and replace it with a smart contract. Smart contract or a bunch of smart contracts together. These are basically deployed in the Ethereum blockchain. You don't have to manage a server, stuff like that. So you just worry about this smart contract, which has object oriented, which has functions and stuff you can call, and from the front end through JavaScript, this just calls the functions and replies with the answer, and the website just works. So to the end user, it pretty much looks like a website. They won't tell most of the difference except for the part where they have to interact with the contract. So I can browse as an end user. I can browse any of the dApps, distributed apps. But if I want to interact with the contract, if I want to upvote something or maybe buy something through the smart contract, then I'll have to. That is slightly different. You have to use wallets and send ethers and stuff. There's some steps involved in that. But yeah, I would say end user would very like a majority of the part would feel very similar to the end user. Now, this screen, I would say maybe you take a screenshot. I'll probably also share this after. Now, there's a lot of ways to get started with it. There's tons of things out there, and I would recommend just trying out what works for you. I'm just sharing something that worked for me when I started out. I had so I came across this tutorial called Crypto Zombies, which is written by a brilliant set of people at I think it's Loop Network, the company. They created a very interesting, fascinating tutorial, which is basically they start from scratch, assuming that you have some experience with JavaScript or just programming in general, and they help you build through Solidity, help you build a game sort of a thing similar to CryptoKitties. If you've not heard of CryptoKitties, it's a very popular game, like simple game that took off in Ethereum blockchain last year. So yeah, that walks you through that entire step, and it's fun to do as well. Like by the end of it, you're having fun while you're doing it. Truffle framework, that is something also that I would recommend checking it out. Using Truffle, it helps you do all the heavy lifting. Like you don't have to worry about compiling this and that. You just like one command and it sets up your entire dev environment. There's also examples, and they have some great tutorials. There's this concept of boxes for Truffle, which is basically pre-built packages, or just they have like entire stores and modules already built, which you can use in your own code or see how it's built and just learn from it. There's like it's already pre-working thing. Open Zeppelin is another project that I would give a shout out to. They have so it's an open source library, which is basically a set of smart contracts already built out, and it's battle tested. It's not something that's like a sample code. It's something that you can literally just pick up and deploy in production in Ethereum. The reason is because so a lot of common things are like you have to do this over and over again. If you're creating a token, a new coin in the market, right? That's a very it's not a complicated thing, and it's been done over and over again. You don't have to repeat the same steps. You can take a contract, a code, which has already been a lot of public projects out there, a lot of famous projects out there have taken Open Zeppelin, just changed a few parameters and published it to the Ethereum chain. You can have your own token that way. So I'll recommend doing that. It's a fun. Let me just show you an example of that. I won't go into too much details. This is not a very technical talk. Just an introduction of what it looks like. So this is a simple contract I took directly from Open Zeppelin. I don't have to change anything over here. I can push this to the Ethereum blockchain, and I have a token, which is called Simple Token. I can change this and use it in my name, Niranjan Token or something else. So I would recommend this is a fun way to start with. You can just name a token in your name or your friend's name and put it on the Ethereum blockchain, maybe add it to a decentralized exchange like IDEX or something, and it's just fun to brag about, right? A token in the network. And this is literally the code that you require. Now again, as you learn more and more about Solidity, you'll start knowing the details of it. You'll explore all the different types of it. But basically, yeah, this code, if you're familiar with JavaScript, it does not look too different, right? This is the constructor, a few variables, that's it. So that's basically Open Zeppelin. I would recommend you checking that out as well. Solidity, the actual language of Ethereum, checking out the documentation of that's also well written. So that will help you clarify a lot of things. So these are just the few things that help you get started, and like doing these, I would say you're ready to at least deploy some side projects, or like just trying to figure it out. And the community of Ethereum is brilliant. You can if you're stuck somewhere, you can ask people online, and you'll be getting help. So yeah, getting started with this, and then probably reading. There's a new book coming out by Andreas Antonopoulos, which is Mastering Ethereum, but that's not out yet, so I did not link it. It's still on GitHub. It's just experimenting. They're building it up right now. But okay, so why do when I'm talking about decentralized apps and dApps in general, why am I talking about Ethereum and not some other chain, Neo or EOS and stuff like that? I'm talking about the public chains here. Why not anything else? It's because Ethereum is they were early in the space. They have the developer market share right now. There's no other framework that's even close. So because of that, because of so many developers working on this network, that's all the tutorials, all the tools, frameworks, everything that's being written to help out beginners, everything is for Ethereum. So anyone who's starting out, if you Google stuff, most of the articles that you'll come across would be for Ethereum. So I would recommend, if you're just starting out, this would that's one of the main reasons I would recommend picking up Ethereum and like the standard path to becoming a Solidity developer. That's just the reason Ethereum has a lot of market share. So yeah. And lastly, I just wanted to mention, because it's not all rosy, I also wanted to mention some of the downsides that you might need to be aware of. Just why because the space is moving very fast. A lot of tutorials and things that come out, books, that's become slightly outdated pretty quickly. So that's one thing you need to be aware of. The user experience of dApps is not very like you might. So to interact with smart contracts, you have to sort of make your pay through ethers and call the function. So that's a bit tricky. Solidity has its own quirkiness. It's very it's close to JavaScript, but also it has a lot of restrictions because of how Ethereum virtual machine is built, stuff like that, and also because crypto is it's this early in this game. Very few people actually have crypto in their wallets to interact with smart contracts. So that's a downside, like you restrict your market. But again, on the flip side of it, it's so new because there's that few people, and you know where this is heading. The direction it's growing tremendously. So it's good to be early in this game. I started developing for the Android ecosystem when the App Store just came out. I think 2009, 10, something like that. At that point, so that gave me a lot of benefits, right? Getting in early rather than coming in after everyone is already here, that has a lot of benefit in itself. So yeah, I think that's about. So again, this is slightly opinionated approach to getting started. There's also other things like Hyperledger, which is a permission blockchain built by IBM. There's stuff that for B2B things, but I think those are a slightly different type of market than what I'm trying to address, and especially to start out with, to get the fundamentals right. I think getting exposure to this would be a better idea for a beginner. So that's about it from me. Let me know if you have any questions. You can reach out through email nj@vpway.com. And we are also hiring developers. Both, if you're interested in blockchain work, that's awesome. There's a lot of work coming in for that, and also regular web and app stuff as well. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So thanks, Niranjan. We'll get you on CutShort as well, so you can add your roles and start connecting with people for your team right away.
Absolutely.
Right. I think you had to cramp your talk in this format a bit. So what we'll also try to do is get your detailed thoughts in some sort of long form content and try to put it up on our Medium publication so that more people can check it out.
Definitely, I would be interested in writing up a. In fact, I've already done that for a few friends. When I was starting out, I had like a list of things that I recommended other people to read through, or like some articles that really helped me understand what blockchain is. I'm seeing on this on the chat that a lot of people are asking what exactly is a blockchain. There's still, I know, so there's a lot of confusion about it. Even I was in the same state. Yeah, there's a lot of great articles and write-ups. Yeah, we can compile something, but there's definitely a lot of good simple explanation of what these things are.
Yep. So what we'll do is, guys, folks, you have any questions for Niranjan, you can add them in the ask a question section. If you have any very specific questions for him, then you can go ahead and ask him in the chat and he can answer those questions. We are running short on time. It's already like 10:23 p.m. So we have 2 more speakers to go. So let me just get Gangadhar. Are you there? And you can get started. And I'll also invite Satish in the meantime so he can take the seat in the background.
Nikun, should I hang up?
No, what I'll do is you can stand by. I'll just remove you from the screen. I'll invite Satish. And Gangadhar is next, and Satish will be after that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah, Gangadhar.
So you want me to get started?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So I just quickly prepared a deck. So let me
great.
do that. I guess You have a deck in front of you. Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so quick introduction. My name is Gangadhar. I work with a startup called ZenProvex. My background is I'm an engineer, plus I went to B school. I worked in companies. I was in Infosys, Cognizant for some time. I was in the US at the time. Then after that, I started off on my own, mainly in in the space of health. So I made some health applications. Then I moved on to mobile. So I have a startup which is working on, which used to have a product for mobile and cloud solutions for the US market. So that was one of the things I did. Then I moved back to India. When I moved back, my classmate came over and said, "Hey, you should work with us on blockchain." And so, then that's how I got started with ZenProvex. So since we are very short of time, I'll try to go through quick. So this is just mainly what I want to cover, actually. So the first thing is, what is ZenProvex? We call ourselves ZPX. So who are we and what do we do? So I'll just quickly cover that. So we are a blockchain and a cryptocurrency startup. We have multiple products. One of which is what we call as a 108 token. It's actually going on right now. The token launch is going on right now. The token is, so we are at the intersection of finance, cryptocurrency, and blockchain. So this token is essentially an index of leading cryptocurrencies. So think of it as a blockchain-based index mutual fund for cryptocurrency. So if somebody is interested in cryptocurrency but don't know where to start, this token is mainly for them. So that's what we are doing. And then we are also.
Can you put your presentation in full screen mode?
Sure. Let me see. Yep, there we go. I think I should have. Okay, there we go. Is it better now?
Yeah. This is now readable.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, the first product that we have launched is a 108 token. It's called 108 token. It's on the Ethereum blockchain, and it's a index token for people who are interested in investing in or buying cryptocurrency. So instead of thinking about which one to buy, which one to invest in, you can actually just buy this token, and essentially it functions like index. So we invest in the leading cryptocurrencies. Then we have other products that we also have. One is we have a blockchain-based secondary market that we are building out. So essentially what we do here, we'll extend it out into the secondary market for private stock. So this is one product that we are working on. We also have cryptocurrency research and advisory services and hedge fund. So that's quickly what we are. I'll go into the things I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about disclaimers because I think the previous speakers did a good job of covering this, so I don't have to say much. But what you know right now is, there are multiple blockchains. I think you must have heard, you already heard Bitcoin, you heard Ethereum, then there is Neo, then there is EOS, then, and so on and so forth. There are different blockchains. The technology itself is in a flux. So if you want to get into it, it's very, very confusing. So I can see the reason why people are asking, where do I start? I don't know where to start. That's a very interesting question, because if you just go online, there is just too much material out there. But the leading blockchain right now, in terms of applications being built on it, it is Ethereum. And that's the point I'm trying to make in the next one. That, most people go and learn Solidity. But the point I'm trying to make here is, just learning Solidity does not mean that you will get a job. It's, most people learn Solidity so that they can write smart contracts. And, your market at that point is mainly, companies which are doing ICOs. And again, I'm trying to be sort of, I'm trying to give you the other side of the view, because ICOs are great. Everybody hears about ICOs, but ICOs are also in some ways like a get rich quick schemes, because people know that people are investing in ICOs or buying tokens to make quick money. So it's like everybody is like, okay, let's also make quick money from the greed that people have. So it's a very difficult space, just learning Solidity. So so the next point I wanted to make is, I think this also came up in the previous conversations. When we are talking about blockchains and the application where there is real application of blockchain technology, it's in cryptocurrencies. So today, real world application of blockchain is mainly in cryptocurrencies. All the rest are either proof of concepts made for one or the other use case, but not really used in real life. So the most used is cryptocurrency. So as a result, you'll hear a lot about ICOs, you'll hear a lot about token sales, you'll hear a lot about that. But the other thing I would also like to say is, I think Nilesh covered this really well. He laid out the matrix of this thing. You don't necessarily have to say, okay, I'll go and today figure out what is the difference between Neo and Ethereum. You don't really need that. What you can do is, if you have knowledge of web technologies, just that's enough. The thing is, you should know it well. As long as you know your web technologies well, you can get started. And that's, at least my opinion is, I think that's where you should start, because going into protocol level discussions, going into a new blockchain type technology, it needs a lot of knowledge and a lot of understanding of not just computer science but also math. And I think Nilesh covered it really well. I like this presentation a lot. So like he said, you need math, you need game theory, you need community building, you really need to be a polymath, and you need to build your team to do that. So if you're just wanting to get in, I would say my big recommendation is do learn your web technologies well, the front end, back end. If you know JavaScript, if you know Python, that can get you started. But then, as you go along, you absolutely need to be fully understanding of security, of application architecture. As long as you can do this, security itself is a huge field. So I'm not trying to make light of this, but the thing is, you should know that as long as you have good knowledge of security and application architecture, you'll get better at this. And from there you can move into whichever direction you want to move into, whether you want to move towards chain core protocol type of work, or you want to stay at the application level and build applications on top of blockchains. I think there is a lot of scope for all of them. But I think this was also covered in one of the presentations before. User experience is really broken. So think about it. If the user experience is broken while you're building the application, it is a frustrating experience as well. So you will see that a lot. So that's where don't try to do it by yourself. Have a group, have a community. That really helps. The last point I would like to make is, there's a lot of publicity. There's a lot of text out there. There's a lot of text. I would say check it out yourself. When I say check it out, I mean write code, run the code, play with it, but don't just believe in what you read, because believe me, there is a lot of stuff that's written, but the moment you start writing and running that code, you will really see what the reality is. And because the thing is, there are a lot of people who write stuff, and people are just reading and then rewriting the same stuff. The people who actually run the code and understand what it's doing, it's very, very minimal, and you will be that small number of people. So do that. I think you will immediately get a leg up on people who are working in this space, and also people who want to get into this space. Yeah, so I just put this together to say, you can start with web technologies as long as you have deep understanding, and get involved with a D app or a product company, like with selfish interest. I would say look at companies like ours. So we also work on blockchain code. We also do Solidity development. But then Solidity doesn't live by itself. It needs to interact with users. It needs to interact with people. So the experience that you gain by doing this can lead to many different directions. And every direction you look in blockchain today, there are only opportunities. Whether it's a wallet product, whether it's a smart contract product, whether it's a backend product, whether it's a security product, whether it's a user experience product, there are only opportunities. So it's just a question of in which direction you want to start, whether you want to start from the web technology side, the blockchain code side, or the protocol side. Just do it, get involved, and that's the last point I was trying to make. Hands-on beats reading a ton. So if you do that, you're already ahead of the game. So we are also hiring. My email address is here, our URL is here, and I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, so we'll have questions in the end. Thanks, Gangadhar. We had Gangadhar in this talk for a very specific reason that, when we spoke first about this webcast, his first reaction was that, most of the people who are getting rid of blockchain space, they are coming for the hype, and that will not take you far. Really make a good career in this field. You don't only need solidity or something. You also need to be a polymath. You need to have basic understanding and fundamental understanding of computer security and other concepts before you can really call yourself, or really before you can think you are ready for a great career in blockchain. So while all the hype, while there's a lot of opportunity, we at CutShort wanted to give you that view that you need to be really focused. You need to spend time and do the hard work necessary to get into this space. This is not going to be just a time where you can just swing by and get a great job and get out. And that is why we also have Satish, who's also going to talk about, who's the next speaker. He is a blockchain professional himself, and he also is a faculty member at Amity Online. So Amity Online is our friends, and they are launching a blockchain certificate program. So we have Satish from Amity Online, who will be talking and giving a perspective about where the industry is and where the talent pool is, and why they launch this course, what and how, and what is the philosophy behind this course, and what are they focusing on. So Satish, you are on.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Wonderful to see kind of interest that blockchain has gained. So we obviously didn't expect so many people to join. So good to see so many people come in. Let me share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Not yet. So I think it is just a minute. Yeah, I think you need to focus. You need to put your mouse or focus on that presentation, that application that you are sharing. It's a Microsoft PowerPoint, right? Yeah, now we can see it, and you can put in the, yeah.
Yeah, you can see it now?
Yeah.
So it was wonderful to hear the other speakers speak about the different topics in terms of how to get started. So what I'd like to focus on is, is blockchain really the next talent opportunity? And if yes, where are we in terms of the opportunity and what needs to be done? A quick background about myself. So my name is Satish, and I run a company called Intellitic Solutions. We are into blockchain development, and I also am a faculty and program mentor at the Amity GP course that we're going to launch on blockchain. So my background is, interestingly, I come with a background in HR and have been in the HR tech space for the last 18 years. And blockchain happened a couple of years back when we were actually looking for a solution for one of the problems that we were trying to solve. So we did not get into blockchain, or I did not get into blockchain with interest in the space, but because I thought it was a technology that could help a problem that I was trying to solve. That's a quick background. Today we develop we have our own product that we're developing, which is a background verification system on the blockchain. and we also help other companies with blockchain development services. We also run a few short-term courses as well. That's a quick background. What I'd like to talk about from interest perspective is there was a lot of hype. I mean, all of us spoke about the hype about blockchain. So is there value to the hype, or is it just hype? I mean, should people really look at blockchain as a career? What I'm going to do is show you some information or statistics about where we are. Uh, Around December of 2017, I think Bitcoin made it around 20,000 USD and buzzing. So Google Trends actually said that Bitcoin and Ethereum actually were the top two or in the top 10 most searched words. So there is a lot of interest that it's generated. The average investment in blockchain projects is around $1 million today. So people have started investing money in projects. Juniper Research actually reports that 57% of large corporations have either already started working on blockchain or are actually considering it actively. So the global blockchain market is expected to be $20 billion by 2023. And so that's about some statistics about, is it really hype, or are people really putting money behind it? Are there projects that are happening? So where are we in terms of blockchain adoption? This is typically the adoption curve. And if you look at, in 2015 is when early exploration in terms of investment and what it can do, if you're talking about it. The early adopters, started in 2016, 17. You had some banks experiment with some POCs. Regulatory authorities started getting worried about whether what's going to impact it's going to have. But it's really now that we're seeing action. So we need to really focus in the next 4 or 5 years. This is what action is going to happen. So people have already developed POCs. We're probably going to see the first production level, system on. So 2018, I believe, is going to be a very interesting year for blockchain. And going forward, a lot of new initiatives, protocol level developments, a lot of challenges. I think all the three speakers spoke very clearly about not getting carried away by the hype, because there are a few challenges. It is still a nascent technology. But the thing is that a lot of people are working on these challenges, and hopefully very soon we will have answers to a lot of these problems. Right? So what's the talent demand on blockchain? TechCrunch actually put this out saying that there are about 14 job openings for every blockchain developer, which means it's completely opposite of the other market. So here there is a huge demand for talent. Talent is not available. So what it means is that there are a lot of opportunities for people who want to build a career around blockchain. Number of blockchain related job openings has tripled in the last 1 year. Again, I'm trying to look at statistics, and this is a recent publication where the freelance talent marketplace Upwork saw that blockchain rose to be the fastest growing skill out of more than 5,000 skills, which is a year-on-year increase of about 35,000%. So it's a huge shift, from being something that people thought was just hype to a lot of now interest in actually people wanting to learn about blockchain. So since Jan of 2017, the demand for blockchain engineering talent and on top talent has grown by about 700%. So the fact is there is a lot of demand, there is a lot of need, and so there is a real push needed to ensure that we meet the demand from India as a country where talent is available. So recent report by Computer World indicated that there's about an $18,000 premium for software developers. So again, it's a well-paying job. So if you're logically sound, you're interested in learning, and like one of the other speakers said, you can actually start. There's no need for you to really be very experienced in any of these technologies, because you just have to start learning. The most experienced blockchain developer is probably 4 or 5 years. That's also you really need to start learning, and there is a huge opportunity in front of you. So what do companies look for in a good blockchain developer? This is a list I've combined based on my own experience, and so typically expertise in, I'm talking at the base developer level. So all the other speakers spoke about protocol level, things like that. So I believe that you probably need to make a beginning. So I also saw in the poll that 90% of the people who are actually part of the webinar today have either not done anything on blockchain or just looking to begin their career. So to begin your career, you probably have to take some of the tips that they gave in getting started, learning some basics, reading up. But from an expectation perspective, the companies they look for expertise in Solidity, Golang, basics of JavaScript will help you get started. One needs to be comfortable with multiple languages, that large data sets. Knowledge of distributed systems is an advantage. So read up on these. If you already have experience, that's great. Knowledge of cryptography, like I think all of us have mentioned this. I also want to look at some of the behavioral aspects which are important, because I think this is a new upcoming career opportunity. So you'll not have the same kind of support that you get in the others. So curiosity is very important. You need to want to ask a lot of questions as to how something works and why are there issues here, how can it be solved. So curiosity is very, very important. Continuous learning orientation, because like the others were also saying, there are developments happening almost on a daily basis, and you need to want to be on top of it and keep learning and wanting to keep looking for answers for a lot of questions. One of the challenges again with this is that when you start working on some other development happens, and you start thinking, should I work on this or should I move to the other one? That sounds better. So keep it simple. One of the suggestions that we'll give is to keep it simple. Look at protocols that are already in the market, that are have already, that where work is already happening. So be very clear on those kind of decisions. Attention to detail is very, very important. You need to, because like people had mentioned, smart contracts are very important. I was reading a report about how I think a Pew Research company has said that 50% of the smart contracts are vulnerable. So there is a need for people to be very careful about how they write these smart contracts. So attention to detail is very important. Comfort with ambiguity, I think this is very, very important. You don't get all the answers that you're looking for. You'll probably have to struggle. You'll have to keep asking. You'll have to search for the answers yourself, but you have to be very comfortable with ambiguity. That's, I think, a very important trait. What exactly are the gaps? So we're talking about big demand. We're talking about a lot of job opportunities, and where are the gaps? So why are we finding it difficult? Most blockchain developers today are freelancers, so it's not a very structured kind of a career, which is one of the things that it's just like Amity is trying to solve. But as of today, most blockchain developers are freelancers. The learning curve is pretty high with blockchain. It's a complex technology. Most of the work that we try and do is to try and simplify it. So the workshops that I run personally are actually called Blockchain Demystified. So we're trying to demystify some of these concepts. But the fact is that the learning curve is a little higher. So you need to be continuously at it, which is why in the previous slide also I said the learning orientation is very, very important. New developments are happening at the protocol level almost every day, so which makes it a little difficult to stay abreast of changes. So you really have to be personally very interested in reading, and community is a very good place to keep talking or hearing about a lot of new things, discussing. So I think that point was very, very important, that you need to be part of the community. Don't worry about how much you know when you start. You just ask questions, absorb information, right? So that's how all of us learn. Companies working on blockchain have mostly been startups. So that's also one of the, so slowly we are finding that some of the big IT majors have started forming full-fledged blockchain divisions. That is something that started happening. So you will find that demand for blockchain talent is going to go up even from the large IT majors. Also from a learning, course or a learning perspective, most learning content is pre-recorded, self-learning, and this is a new technology. So you will have this, and you'll probably, if you're interested and you're somebody whose orientation is to learn new things, you will find the right learning content. I think Niranjan had shared some of the slides with information on where you could start your learning. So those are things that you should quickly pick up and start. What I would also suggest is have a daily learning culture. Get into a daily learning culture. You really need to work on this. Even if you're busy with your work, and if you really are interested in this space, spend some time on a daily basis to learn. There are very few structured short courses that cover all key elements. Most of them are very short-term courses. Most courses are too theoretical. I think hype is also about the complex mathematical concepts and cryptography. And yes, these are all very, very important. It also has to be clear about who needs to get in depth in terms of understanding. So if you're going to work at the protocol level, what are the things you need to understand? If you're going to get the application development stage, what do you need to understand? There's a need to demystify the concept and make it easy for everyone to understand. Opportunities for live projects are very limited. So what you currently get is you put something up and put it in the community, people see it, but the actual opportunity is in terms of identifying a problem statement and working on something and seeing if it's actually valuable in a larger market, right? So that's something that is very important, and that there are a few gaps. There's no credible university-backed curriculum, and this has been there for quite some time. So I've been really looking at various options there. One of the reasons why when Amity reached out, I said this is something that I should do. So quickly talk about what Amity is offering. Amity is offering a postgraduate program, it's PGP in blockchain technology and management. What is interesting is, in this there are different streams for architects and developers, and you get hands-on experience on live projects and case studies. We've tried to really make it very interesting, engaging, and practically useful for people who are going through the course. You'll have interesting assignments that you'll go through on a daily basis. Non-obligatory contact classes on the weekend. Also, if you're interested in meeting people, connecting with the faculty, that's an option. Certification and alumni status from Amity. Amity being one of the largest universities in the country. Career assistance after completion of the program. We're finding a lot of companies showing interest in this course, and the people who pass out. So that's something that you'll also get. And these are some of the tools that you'll learn during the course. It's a 8-9 month long PGP program, and this is something that you should probably look at. The final slide that I want to show you is the course is actually run by Mr. Srinivas Mahankali, who's the program director. He's an alumnus of IIT Madras and IIM Bangalore, and about 25 plus years of experience across industry segments. He's the program director. You have senior people like Rajesh, who's the NASCOM blockchain special interest group chairman, for about 20 years of experience in telecom. And I'm the program mentor, and I also teach in the program. So you have quite a few interesting people as part of the faculty, and the course is structured pretty well. That's what I wanted to share. If you reach out to me for any queries on blockchain, how you get started, any support, I'll be happy to answer questions. Back to you, Nikunj.
Okay, Satish, thanks. So there are 51 questions. So I sincerely doubt if we will be able to cover all of them. So I think you need to now stop adding more questions, folks. You need to start upvoting the questions that you want to get answered. While the talks were going on, I also see a lot of questions have been already answered by Nilesh and other speakers. So I think thanks Nilesh for reducing the work already. I would actually let me call Nilesh on screen, so that since he has been answering most of the questions, if he wants to elaborate on something, some common threads, that it will be easy for him to do that. So let me just invite him back to the screen. And while Nilesh is summarizing his answers to most of the questions, I'll just look for questions, any questions specifically for the other speakers. So then I can also start pitching those questions to them. Yeah, Nilesh, thanks for answering all those questions, man.
No problem.
I think there are a lot of overlapping threads, overlapping questions. So if you want to elaborate on any specific questions, go ahead and do it.
Yes, I see a lot of beginners, and I would say that before you start developing on blockchains, you should actually try to become a user of it. And I can actually show you how easy it is, right? So I hope you can see my screen. Are you seeing my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah, so for example, you can go to metamask.io. Now, it's a browser extension that works with Chrome and Firefox. It's actually a light wallet. And in blockchain, what a wallet is, it basically keeps your private key. Right? Is the screen showing up now?
Not yet. Can you retry? I think Satish, we were able to see Satish's screen before this. So try again and it might work.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have 999 registrations, so I think we're gonna have the countdown timer right here.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so at the absolute beginners, go to metamask.io, install the extension, and now Ethereum has
Yeah,
multiple
your
networks.
screen is now visible,
Okay.
Nilesh.
Yeah. So you can install this extension. It will show up on your browser toolbar like this. And what it does is it allows you to create accounts. Now remember, in blockchain, an account is just a key pair. It's a public key and private key combination. You don't have to go and ask anybody to create an account, right? There's no server. Now what happens is you need to get some ethers before you can start sending it. So Ethereum has multiple networks. One is a main net where things have real value. One ether is, I don't know, $600 or something. But there are test nets as well, and I can show you when you open MetaMask, you will see all these networks there. Are you able to see the network list now? Right. So, for example, you can connect to Props10 test network, and it will allow you to create an account. Now you need to get some ethers, so you can just Google for Props10 Faucet. Faucet is an app which gives you free test ethers, right? And here you would enter your public key, get some test ethers, create accounts for yourself, for your friends, and then start doing transactions. What it will do for you is it will actually expose you to the details like gas fee, gas price, what is a block time, what is a confirmation, right? You'll become familiar with the terminology, and that's absolutely bare minimum if you want to become a developer, right? So before you become a developer, try to understand and just as a user, try to explore it as much as you can. Then you will be in a much better position. So you have send me one test ether, right? You can just enter your public key, which is your account address, which you're allowed to share. You can share with anybody, and this faucet will give you one free test ether. Then you can divide it and then do transactions, and then you can go to the next step where you can think about sending ethers not to a person or not to an account but to a contract. And that's when you will start realizing the whole concept of a smart contract and a Turing completeness.
Yeah, that's interesting. So to take any more questions, I think there was a question about the confusion for somebody to choose between blockchain or ML, AI, big data. That's the other, rising set of technologies. So what should developers choose? Should they choose blockchain or should they rather choose to invest in data science, ML, AI? Gangadhar and Niranjan, if you want to share insights on it, just write something in the chat window. I'll invite you to screen. In the meantime, Niresh and Satish, if you have anything to share on this topic, then please go ahead.
I think it's purely interest, right? So there is scope for all these technologies. Blockchain is slightly riskier at this point in time because there is still a lot of development happening. But AI, ML, there are so many products that are being developed, actually being used already. So it's an existing technology that you can actually work on. So I would think that it's really based on interest. If you like the concept of decentralized network and what blockchain can do, and if you have a specific problem to solve, that's how I started. So for me, blockchain happened because I was interested in solving a problem which blockchain was the best solution for. So that's the reason I got into blockchain, and after getting in, I found this really interesting and I wanted to continue working in the space.
Yeah, I think this question we keep hearing from our users at CutShort as well, and within even data science and data careers, or they all look pretty similar, but then within themselves they are so different. They need so much different skill set, somebody who is good with data science may not be great with data analytics, or maybe not be great with big data engineering. So I think it is not about this versus that. As Satish said, it's more about where do you think, where do you find, what do you find more interesting, where do you think your true leanings are, where you are strong at, and then try to pick up on those trends. If you think blockchain, crypto, cryptography, and if you want to get involved in more evolving use cases at the cutting edge, blockchain looks pretty interesting. But then it also comes with its own set of challenges. If you thrive in those challenges, great. Else you can choose, you would rather be a great web developer rather than a mediocre blockchain developer, right? So always choose where your strengths lie. So I think, what is blockchain? Why do we use this? We already covered this. So I'm just looking at the questions from top to bottom, looking at the most upvoted questions first. What do you want the speakers to cover more in this webcast? I think most of the people asked questions there. If you guys have any specific thing that you want to share with the people there, go ahead and talk. Where to start, how to start, some useful sites to learn. I think Nilesh answered those. Most of the speakers talked about it. Nilesh also gave you some practical ways to start learning. I think Niranjan also talked about a game that you can start playing to learn the basic concepts. So I think we already talked about that. What's the ideal platform where a developer can get hands-on training online? Now, that might be a question for Satish.
There are quite a few. I mean, I would think that you probably have to first start, getting into. There's a website called Block Geeks, so you have a lot of basic startup level information courses, community. So it's one place where you can actually get started. There are a lot of other websites, Udemy, edX, a lot of those people who offer these courses as well. If you want a structured, certificate course, Amity is offering that. So again, depends completely on where you are in your career, how much you're interested, how long do you think it will take you to learn, how sooner do you want to get into blockchain as a career. So it depends on those things. But starters, look at some of these online courses that are available. Look at different. What is important, according to me, is to get multiple perspectives. Each one has a different perspective. You have to understand that perspective. The same thing will be explained by different people differently. So understand how the concept of consensus is explained. Understand from your own perspective. Look at examples that make sense to you. So I think more than one source is always better. So I probably took multiple. I read multiple articles, looked at multiple videos, and that's how I got to learn the core concepts really well.
Okay. One question, Nilesh. Nilesh is there? I cannot see him.
I think his video is off, I think.
Okay, so there's one question. Many of us have gone through the basic theory of blockchain and Bitcoin. I'm interested in knowing how we can implement this on other things like voting, images, music.
Yeah, so essentially we're talking about use cases now. So what is important is, as much as the hype is there, you also have to understand whether a particular problem can be solved using blockchain. And if yes, you have to understand what are the characteristics that blockchain will bring in that will help with that in solving that problem. I can again go back to the example of what I'm trying to do, which is to build a background verification system on the blockchain. So those are the kind of things. So voting, yes, it's one of the use cases that everybody talks about. Provenance, supply chain, few of the use cases which are very popular. So you need to look at the problem. So I guess it's important that from a developer perspective, how this is different from the other technologies is that even a developer has to understand the problem statement well and not just look at writing the code. So I think that is which is why in my slide I also mentioned learning orientation, curiosity, the need to understand why we are doing what we're doing. All those are pretty important. And assessing the use case and whether blockchain makes sense is one of the very important aspects.
I'd love to cover that specific question about using it for images, music, and all. Now, blockchain is for asset tracking, right? and because it's stored on thousands of computers, that storage is very expensive. So just as an estimate, 1 GB of data on Ethereum permissionless public mainnet blockchain, it will cost you around $20 million. That's 1 GB because it is stored on thousands of computers. So this is the reason why we don't actually store the big static assets, the blobs, on blockchain itself. What you can do is you can just publish them as a computer hash, and that just maintain the hash on the blockchain. So that allows you that lets you give your users and recipients a guarantee that I will not be able to fake this asset, but you don't have to keep the entire image or music on the blockchain. So you can track proofs, and therefore I think that cryptography is really important. I mean, hash function has been there for a long time. It's only in the first decade of 21st century that we applied it to version control. Now all of us use Git, right? The same ideas are there. We take a file, we hash it, and then we track the hash. And it doesn't matter where the file comes from. We will always get back the same file. So yeah, so what you could do is, for example, what you could do is publish the image, publish the song, video, big PDF on IPFS, which gives you a hash, and then you just track that hash on blockchain transactions as a metadata.
So there's one question about freshers. So what is the scope for freshers? What will be your advice?
Yeah, I think this is a good field to get into for freshers. I generally look at people who are trainees in my company are people who are freshers. So one advantage I find is that if you get into working in a particular technology, you have things that you have to unlearn. So here it's a fresh start. Also, the gap is not too much. So like somebody had mentioned, the most experienced developer is probably 5 years into the space. If you're smart and you're logical and you want to learn, I think you can quickly get started. And interest, I mean, it's completely passion and interest. If you really want to get into this, there's a lot of things that you can then quickly. I think Niranjan spoke about how he only been a year and a half for him, and he's already doing a lot of work in this space. So I've been in this space for 2 years. We're also doing multiple projects. So it's for freshers, I think it's a question of passion and skill. And once you have that, I think you can get started with it. Nilesh, if you want to add.
No, I agree. Actually, it turns out that the kind of guarantees that the blockchain has actually makes things simpler, right? Because let's take Solidity as a contract writing language. It's actually not very difficult and different from JavaScript. And you have the advantage that you don't have to bother with what's happening on the network, what's happening on the file system. Entire guarantee is given to you by the network, and therefore it's actually quite easy to learn. However, you do need to get your fundamentals.
So there's one interesting question. How can non-developers make a career in blockchain consulting?
So
Is it possible?
I've answered that on the Q&A. So basically, blockchain projects, they are really community projects. A blockchain project is a belief network. People believe in the same thing, and therefore that thing gets value. Which means community building, user experience, marketing, all this have become really important. And you really need a very fast-acting, really effective team in place. So developers alone will probably not succeed because it's also about community building. And if you can see that in projects that you start today, right? People have raised lots of funds while not having developers on their team, but they had a really good marketing team. Now, there are some of them are obviously vaporware, but you can see the importance of marketing and community building. So yes, I would say designers, user experience, policy people, the legal advisors, lots of work to be done.
Okay.
Also, people who come with domain expertise in specific areas, who where blockchain is. For example, if you're working, I'm talking to a gentleman who's a specialist in sleep. So he helps people with sleep problems. So he wants to build a network, block, come up with a blockchain. He's not going to launch an ICO where he says that he'd like to have people with similar problems vote for what kind of research work should be done. So if you have domain expertise, you can use the blockchain to your advantage. You use the protocol and come up with products and solutions where your domain expertise makes a big difference, and that is important.
Okay, I think there might be more questions in the chat, but I think this is like past the budgeted time for this thing. I think we had a lot of free-flowing discussion around a lot of variety of topics that were interesting and useful. So I would again thank all the people, all the wonderful speakers that we had today who shared their knowledge very effectively and very candidly with all of you. And a lot of excitement building up around this space. So I think we would love to continue this momentum. This is just the first webcast that we did. We would love to keep on doing these more often. We have these speakers. I'm hopeful that they will be in continuous touch with you, all of you, your questions. So we're going to channel all of that knowledge into some kind of functional blocks where there is easy information flow without spamming anyone. So we have a WhatsApp group, we have a Medium publication. Follow that, and what we're going to do is we're going to take this content of today's webcast and put it in some sort of digestible format from each of the speakers and put it on Medium as a blog. I would also request all of the speakers to share any specific list that you want to share with the attendees today so that they can refer to it later. We will be taking your decks and also be uploading those in the Medium blog so that people can download it from there and then ask further questions. So we're going to also invite you, all the speakers, to the WhatsApp group if you are up for it. If you're not into too many WhatsApp group already. So we'll try to keep the spam out, and we'll try to make it more intuitive and more effective. So with that, we will be in touch, guys. So we have your email addresses. So watch out for your email. We will be sending you emails with follow-up questions. Thanks again to all the speakers. Satish and Amity Online, they have made available a demo for you guys to try out their new upcoming blockchain certification program. So there's a Google form that you can fill to get that link to get the demo. And they also have offered some good scholarships for people who are attending this webcast today. So go ahead and make use of the scholarship as well. So with that, again, thank you everyone. We had a great time. I hope you found it useful, and we'll also be floating a survey to get feedback on this. How could we have managed this event better? So please let us know your thoughts, and let's stay in touch, and let's form the community that helps each other, which grows together. So thank you again, everyone. Thanks for your time, and thanks from all the people who made this happen. So Anuj and Isha, who were mostly in touch with the speakers, thanks to them to make this event happen, and again to all the speakers who took out time from their busy schedule to make this happen. Thanks again, guys. Thanks so much, and have a good night.
Thanks everyone. Wonderful to see the interest in blockchain, and special thanks to Nikunjan team for organizing something which has really been awesome. Very happy to be part of this, and I think this is just a beginning. We should do a lot more of these to ensure that a lot more questions get answered, or the interest is just going up. So thanks and good night.
Thanks and good night, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. Good night. So you can still interact with the chat if you want. The chat will still be open.